First off, welcome. I'm so privileged and excited to have every single one of you around the table with me right now. This is officially the second recording that I've done for the podcast. The first, of course, being with the most influential person in my life, my mother. So you guys are very much on par with, well, maybe not with my mum, but in terms of the most influential people in my life. You've all had a huge positive impact on who I am today, and I respect every single one of you. And so it's an honor for me to be here with you all right now. And I just want to say thank you and recognize each and every one of you. And also thank this beautiful man right here for all the laughs. He's a fucking joker. But no, for this incredible space that you've created. You know, I was here when you were working on the actual deal to purchase this land, not even 5 years ago.
When it was just a muddy field.
It was just, yeah. And when I came in and just seeing the transformation that you've created here, it is just a clear, I guess, example of the visionary that you are, but also the ability to take a vision and make it happen. And this is also something that, you know, each and every one of us on this table, I believe, are action takers. We not only have the ability to, you know, see solutions or ideas, but to bring them to life as well. So, yeah, thank you for holding us in this beautiful space. If you're ever in Colombia, you got to check this place out. We will put all the details in the description of this podcast and any videos that we put out. But it's an absolute paradise, and I commend you on your work that you've done here. And yeah, thanks for having us. So on that note, everyone who's following the Wasteless World project already has a level of appreciation for our environment and the current state of affairs of the world. And so I don't really want to go into talking about, you know, the problems like, you know, the plastic pollution that we're facing, the health epidemic that's a direct reflection of what's going on with our mother. You know, if our mother's sick, our people are sick, and the way that we're treating our planet is having a direct effect on every single thing that we love and need to live a healthy, happy life. And so what I want to focus on with this conversation is more about actually the solutions and what each and every one of you feel is something that we can do on an individual level or as a community to create a world where we love more, we live more, and we waste less. Waste less time, less energy, less natural resources on things that do not serve us, and spend more time doing the things that make us happy, healthy, and proud. So yeah, I guess, you know, I'll start first on, you know, past the duchy to the left-hand side. We'll start with the man, the boss of this beautiful space that we're currently sitting in. You know, there's so much that we could talk about, but there was something that you mentioned the other day that when we were having a conversation about what you want to, you know, you've already created the vision that you described to me 5 years ago. But we were talking about now what you see for this space in the future, and what would really, for you, be something that generates, I guess, an impact on your friends, family, loved ones, but also the community and the world that we're within. So, you know, if you could give us a bit of an understanding of what your vision is.
Yeah.
From here.
Well, I really liked what you said in the preamble, sort of as you were describing the kind of conversation that we're going to have today, and the difference between, you know, focusing on the problems and focusing on the solutions, because we've certainly got problems, you know, and I think anybody that's paying attention will know that we have problems, but focusing on those problems isn't necessarily productive. It isn't going to take us forward. It isn't going to create a solution or make an impact that can bring us closer to the world that we want to create, or the world that we want to preserve, or the world that we want to restore.
So true.
Those are all actions that have to be taken, and they're actions that have to be taken not just once or twice, not just taken as a society. They're taken on an individual level, and they're taken daily, repeatedly. Mm-hmm. So I think that people individuals underestimate their own ability to make an impact. I think that oftentimes people are daunted or intimidated by the gravity or the size of the problems that we're facing, and they think it's pointless. There's nothing I can do. Well, it's obviously a defeatist and a futile attitude. It's an attitude that is unproductive ultimately, and it underestimates your power as an individual. Each individual has the ability to make choices, and those choices may influence other people to make similar choices. And in fact, every great change in all of history started in exactly that way. It started with one person's words or one person's idea or a small group of people that were motivated and what's the word for it? They were authentic. They were true to their own ideals and beliefs, and they acted those ideals and beliefs out, and they inspired other people to do the same. And massive cultural shifts have happened repeatedly throughout history in exactly that way. And I think that's what we're called upon to do here as in everywhere else. And I think that, examples of those sorts of choices that people can make are instead of buying from large brands and big corporations whose main interest is the bottom line for the shareholders and profitability at all costs, and who have no real moral or ethical concern for the impact of their products on the environment or the effect of their production techniques on their communities, look for smaller brands, look for smaller companies, look for companies that are owned by individuals that you either know or are in your community. At the very least, you're bringing a benefit to your community by supporting those people. And 100%. At the very best, those people are using some sort of an ethical or moral framework for the way in which they produce the products that you're buying from them, and therefore bringing a benefit to a greater community. You know, there's not a lot of corporate raiders working in farmers markets. Generally, you go into a farmer's market, you're going to find somebody who is doing it because they love it, because they care about the beeswax candles that they're making, or because they care about the pies that they're baking or the bread that they're baking. They care about how it's made. They pay attention to it. It's going to be better for you. It's better for them. It's better for the community that you're in. It's just better in every way. And it's certainly worth the 20% more that you pay. In fact, that 20% more that you pay creates a secondary economy that supports and sustains a community of people that are using techniques that would otherwise be lost. And if we just go and buy the cheapest thing every time, and you go to Walmart to get the cheapest, most manufactured thing, it doesn't last as long. It's not as good a quality. It contaminates nature. It contaminates the planet. It creates a sort of a disposable culture of wasteful things. As we're talking about wasting less, one of the best ways that we can waste less is to buy good tools that last for a lifetime, to do work rightly, and to buy things that are made to last. And that's not the priority, unfortunately, of the big corporations, and it's not the priority of these big companies. So just don't go there. And that it will have a massive impact. It really will. And it's a choice that individuals can make on an individual basis, and they can make it repeatedly throughout the course of a day. And it's going to have a tremendous impact. And if more people were doing that, we would see the effects, and we would see them immediately. People as well, you talk about packaging and product packaging. Corporations just don't generally think about that. They think about, what's the cheapest way that I can mass produce this product and send it to as many people as possible, put it in a cellophane wrapper, put it in a single-use disposable foil chip packet, and ship those out. Whereas the guy who's like making his own vegetable chips and selling them in the farmer's market, he's like, I don't really want to do that. I'll pay an extra 10 cents per package to put them in this waxed paper packet, or I'll put it in a reusable packet, or I'll sign people up on some sort of a subscription and I'll bring it to their house in a reusable container. I'll have a service around it. These things are, again, he's an individual making an individual choice. You're an individual that has the power to make the individual choice to support his business and keep it in business.
I think there's a really important point that, encompasses everything that you're talking about right there. And it's a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this myself, and it's something that we have to really try and make a conscious shift of, is a lot of people are looking at the bottom line. Where can I get the cheapest product, right? But what's the real cost? And that's what we need to really teach ourselves and everyone around us that exactly what you're saying there. By spending that little bit more to get something that's made locally, that doesn't have such a huge environmental cost, that's stimulating your local, economy, which is going to come back to your quality of life and the quality of life of everyone within your community. There's so many extra benefits by spending that little bit more. For example, buying at a farmer's market. You mentioned farmer's markets. The stuff that we're buying in supermarkets are often so malnourished, like the actual quality of the product. You're actually getting less than 20% benefit health-wise from the same looking product. Mm-hmm. So, at the end of the day, you're not really paying more.
No, you're getting more.
Yeah.
And some of the products that you get in the supermarket are sprayed with chemicals to make the tomatoes look red. Yeah. And that causes your skin color to change, It's extremely unhealthy. And we should at all costs avoid that sort of thing. People, you do get more nutrition and you get more food buying the real thing, and so although it may cost 20% more when you purchase it, you certainly get a lot more in the end, and you live longer and you are healthier, and the economy is healthier, and the people that are producing those things are healthier. So it is it's a self-sustaining system. It's a cycle that lifts itself up. I think if history has taught us anything, it's that we can't rely on the government to protect our best interests and to take some of these things into account. For example, as you said, we have apples that are grown in California, shipped to Thailand to be turned into puree, and then sent back to California to be sold as a puree. That's just insane. It's completely insane. And we're doing that all the time. We're shipping apples back and forth across the Pacific Ocean in order to turn them into a puree. There should be penalties, there should be fines, there should be, what would you call them? Taxes or levies or tariffs against this sort of thing, because it's just so inefficient. Even if it can be done cheaper because of the way the world economy works, it should be prevented by a conscientious and thoughtful government.
100%.
We don't have one of those.
No.
Unfortunately. We don't have one of those, and I don't think we're about to have one. I think if we want to see a change, it is grassroots, and it comes from the community. And
it's got to be community
kind of an indigenous governance where we create a system or a set of ideals that people are willing to participate in, and we encourage one another to live that way, separate from the big government, because the big government's captured by the very institutions that are paying to make that sort of inefficiency possible.
100%, and I think that's actually a perfect bridge to sort of jump onto some of the work that both you two are focusing on at the moment, which is around building communities that are focused on as much autonomy as possible, where we're not relying on this broken system that's focused on, just profit and greed, and that's poisoning our society, and that's poisoning our environment. And so bringing that back, I guess, to, I know, Ariel, you personally have had a huge impact on my personal growth in the last, just even in the last 12 months. You've helped me overcome a number of challenges as an individual, to give me the sort of vision or focus or confidence to be able to move forward doing these sorts of things. And I guess from yourself, I'd like to know, where do you see the time and energy is best invested as an individual for a growth towards a sort of I guess, an elevated or an ascension to an environment or a planet where we're all living more connected and not destroying our precious mother.
Yeah, that's a big topic, really, because it's so multifaceted, and it is really a holistic approach that we as humanity need to take in resolution. So I love this conversation and what you guys have all spoken to, and there is quite a strong movement. I remember my mum, when I was young, was involved with a movement called Transition Town, and it's all about localization. So how can we bring all of our economy back into the local community and the surrounding bioregion? And that means also educating farmers that if they are going to sell to the corporations that they're going to be slowly cut and cut and cut again until they're really struggling.
Yeah.
And they're going to be in a loophole where they don't have a market with their local community because they've stopped connecting with them on a personal level. So you can reintroduce that by people that are growing produce, start marketing to your local community, like, put ads on social media, put signs up the front of your farm. Maybe there's a day after you do sell that you could have a small component of leftover stuff or stuff that wasn't kind of the top grade that you could sell to your local community until you build up a bit of a awareness. Even talking to your local health food shops about giving them like at a lower price, which would still be a higher sale price to them than it would if they're selling to the corporation, to give them a certain amount of stock every week until they build up a bit of recognition that they've got their product in there, and slowly start bringing a bit of the produce that's getting exported, which is a case globally. It's apart from really regional areas, it is a global problem that we're shipping. Like, I just was talking to Carolina about some of the best coffee in Colombia, and I was like, and she said, yeah, but it all gets exported, and then we're left with the shit stuff.
It's shocking.
And I'm like,
when
well,
I
it
first
is
arrived,
really
I was
global.
going to give it Nescafe. They would give you a cup of hot water and a Nescafe. I was in Manizales, which is the heart of coffee production in Colombia. I had come here to buy coffee. So this was like 17 years ago. And I was, get up in the morning, go out, can I get a coffee? They'd bring me a cup of hot water and an Nescafe. And I was like,
what?
I'm in crazy town. Like, isn't this where the best coffee in the world comes from? But yeah, they export all the high quality coffee. And Colombia also didn't really at that time have a great coffee culture. They just didn't drink coffee. They didn't care about it.
It's the worst quality.
Yeah, it's grown now. There's like quality coffee here, but you still got to go out of your way. You got to go out of your way to find it. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so this is one aspect of it, and I think if we're looking at time being our greatest commodity, is like really we're bringing awareness to where do we put our time, and that's a personal development, skill set. Is that if I write a list of like where the majority of my time goes every day, the majority of people would find it's work, normally for the system, that is the highest governing body that controls the majority of humanity, to keep them enslaved into this cycle of exhaustion, so that we're too exhausted emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually to seek our own higher conscious self-realization, basically.
Yeah.
And that is really the end goal, is like through enslavement of a species, we are just taking dictatorship. So it's switching the way that we think. So the first thing is like really bringing everything back to your personal life. Like we can't make a difference, but actually we can.
Yeah.
And that starts with self, and it starts with your daily sector of time that you're awake, and you can write a list of like, okay, this is where my time goes in a week, add it up, and have a real confrontation with yourself about where you're putting your energy. Maybe choose one of those things. Okay, I spend like 4 hours a week on social media. For most people, it's probably 20. I'm going to just, limit myself to like 2 days a week where I'm only going to have like a half hour, and then write a list of all the things that you could do that are benefiting to your home environment, your relationships, your community, your dreams and your visions, because bringing awareness into like what our highest potential as a human is and what we're on earth to do for the collective, to be in service, is where our greatest export of energy could be. So that first comes with self. Like if I'm not doing what I love, what's giving me like unlimited energy, then I'm feeding and siphoning off my energy, as has been designed by the system for thousands of years, to feed a entity that is controlling our existence, or this reality, because we've all consented to it. Not all of us as people waking up, but we've all consented to this reality. So it takes every individual to break away. And by coming together and having these kinds of conversations and really bringing our passions and our gifts to the table and sharing about what our highest vision for the future of ourselves and Earth could look like, we start inspiring each other. We start sharing and networking, like just from 24 hours, on the round table with you guys, I've got like another whole plethora of networking that I'm like inspired to go and create and explore now, because, that's my passion, is like connecting people that have beautiful skill sets and like connecting them with other people, because a lot of people aren't networkers. That's one thing that's some people are good at. So it's my mission to connect all those people with each other so that they can support each other with their gifts and their skill sets. So ultimately, we're still a slave to money. And when we start doing what we love without expectation of some kind of financial exchange, then that's when we liberate ourselves, when we can go like, I just want to give this to my community, to my workmates, to the people that are in my life that I love, even if it's like 5 minutes once a day. To yourself. Self-love. You fill up your love tank, and then you've got an overflowing abundance. So when you're doing what you're passionate about, you're just channeling like source energy, like it's free-flowing universal current that you're just moving through you. So consider strongly, like, are you doing what you love with your life? And if you're not, what steps do you need to take to start implementing that? Even if it's like every day I'm going to put like half an hour into my goal of my dream and my vision of what I want for myself, so that I can just do what I love every day.
Yeah. And that kind of ties back a little bit into what you were saying earlier, you know, where people just kind of accept this is the status quo. I'm not able to make a real difference, so why should I?
It's a double-edged sword. I would say there's two ways that the system keeps people trapped. Two, and you mentioned one of them, which is keep them so busy that they're running all the time. The other thing that the system provides us with is extreme comfort.
Yeah.
And that's the second edge, complacency. Is that you come home and you're so tired that you flop on the couch and you watch Netflix, or you surf social media, or you waste
just
time.
comfortable
You're
enough.
just comfortable enough. And the way that we managed to have revolutions in the past was that things got so unbelievably uncomfortable for people that they were just like, no more, no more. And we unfortunately are well beyond that point now. We're well beyond the point where we should have had a revolution. There needs to be, for a healthy society, there needs to be continual shakedowns and changes, and we need to overturn some of these old hierarchies and old systems because they become stagnant and they become corrupt over time. And we've gone well beyond that. We've gone, I think we're more than 100 years overdue for a shake-up like that. And it's because we have such incredible comforts, which have been brought to us by technology, that people are just sort of like, it's good enough. I got an 80-inch TV at home. I got a huge sofa, and I can order anything I want in one day. Anything that you want will arrive at your house. So that's working against us. Yeah. And I think if people want to, as you said, you limit that sort of cheap dopamine that you give yourself to a certain extent, start to replace it with other things that actually sharpen you and harden you and make you work harder. And at the same time, look at the things that you're doing that are either unproductive or destructive, straight up, and replace those with things that are productive or that are taking you closer to a goal. People will wake up a little bit. I think that
easier said than done because of that just quick dopamine and the complacency.
It is easier said than done, but you can move yourself into a different situation as well. You know, go off. I think part of the reason all of us are the way that we are is because when we were younger, we said, I'm going to put all my worldly belongings into a backpack, disconnect completely, and go to places where you just can't be comfortable. Yeah. You can't be comfortable when you're bouncing around on a bus in southern Peru for 14 hours to get 60 kilometers. Yeah. That's not comfortable.
I slept under a park bench once. In Colombia, that was sketchy.
I slept under a shower in Airlie Beach. Yeah, beach shower. I was in the back of a car, and when the sun came up, it was so hot. I was actually in Cairns, and I'd been at a place called the Woolshed, and it was a bit of party night. And afterwards, I went slept in the back of the station wagon. Geez. Sun came up, 6:30 a.m. I'm lucky I didn't die because it was just cooking me. So I got out of the truck and I went to one of those public showers on the promenade, and I tied my shirt around it because it had the pressure switch. So I tied my shirt around it. I laid down in the shower and went to sleep.
That's a great trick.
Cops woke me up about an hour later. You can't sleep here.
All right, so there's I would definitely recommend that to anyone. Is
get out of your
comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, traveling is a great way to do that. Putting yourself into a country where you don't speak the language, you're not familiar with the culture, and then try and figure it out, and that's when you'll really start feeling alive. Yeah. So, awesome. I'd love to hear from yourself, Tommy boy.
So, some big topics here. We're not going to talk about problems, but there's a key theme coming through what both of you guys have said. It's really, you think about the supply chains and the way that people behave and the madness of the healthcare system and the way that education's structured, it's actually insane.
It is.
It's insane. Like, it's clinically insane, whether you look at it at a societal, governmental, or personal level. A lot of people are behaving in an insane manner.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you're saying, just about connecting with yourself. Like, a lot of people, I think, are living, and I'm sure we've all been guilty of that around this table, you're living outside your kind of heartfelt desire and your own path. Because people are disconnected. They're disconnected from the land, they're disconnected from their communities, and they're disconnected from themselves. So I think something that's really been a big epiphany for me over the last couple of years is just these networks. There's a lot of cool global networks coming up now. Two in particular, the Bioregional Regeneration Network, of which they're blossoming all over the world. They're regenerating the whole of the Cascadia bioregion in the Pacific Northwest, the Colorado River. There's 9 activated bioregions in Colombia. There's one in the south of Ireland that I went to. Just to be clear, if people don't understand what a bioregion is the way humans have lived throughout the whole of history. We're basically organised ourselves around cuencas. We all organise ourselves around rivers, river mouths, and the faces of mountains. Sorry, cuenca is a watershed. It's a Spanish word.
Thanks for those who don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, watersheds essentially. So, do you know who your neighbour is? The guy that's upriver from you, who's maybe doing nice things, maybe not doing nice things, but whatever he does affects you. Yeah. And then whatever you do in your part of the river affects your guy downstream. But I mean, it's more than just water flow. Water connects us all, but we need to actually connect to each other. It's about face-to-face connections, and nothing will really replace that. There's lots and lots of brilliant technologies out there that can help us get through a big transition, because I do think it's not like the big transition's coming. The big transition is upon us. It's happening right now. I'm sure everyone feels it. 2020 was obviously a big accelerator there, but really, you could say for the last 15 or 20 years, we have been living in an insane manner on Earth, potentially longer, but at least now we know the damage we're doing. We're still continuing to live in an insane manner, to kill our mother. We're killing our mother. I mean, does that sound insane to anyone? We're literally killing the person who brought us to life and gives us life and gives us food and gives us water and, I mean, look at the mother. Yeah. She's absolutely amazing. The mother can be like this, we can regenerate the mother. Yeah. So there's the bioregional side, and then the other thing that's been a big thing for me this year is just discovering these regenerative villages. So more than just connecting at a bioregional level, people are creating villages of people who they're just teaming together. Yeah. Web3 aficionados, solar punks, permaculturists, just anyone who's interested in forming a better system. Because I think it's clear to see the systems are all in collapse. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, we've fought for ages to try and fix those systems. We've all fought against it. We've all wrote angry letters to MPs and tried to, I know we've all been battling, haven't we? Yeah. And it achieves nothing.
Does nothing.
So, something that's really set my mind at rest is the systems that are going into collapse. Let that system burn. Yeah. Let that burn.
The change the system needs will not come from within that system.
And it's also we're talking about the necessity of humans to feel a bit of suffering and a bit of discomfort. That's essential.
It is essential.
Yeah.
We need to get to this point of the necessity to make the transformation. Because people won't change unless they're pushed. And who knows what's going to happen? Donald Trump could be a serious catalyst to accelerate this more. There's all sorts of other geopolitical things going on in the world. The ecology is collapsing. Things are going to shift. It's going to push us into separate ways. We can kind of see all that happening. So, if we start to create these regenerative villages and organise ourselves around bioregions, guess what's going to be the only places of abundance and peace left in the world are going to be those areas.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's really coming through to me as you speak there, you've always been someone that's been quite ahead of the game when it comes to technology. I know you worked within tech for a very long time, and something you mentioned there is just nothing can beat the technology we have between our ears and the ability to, face to face, the impact that can have on ourselves and our community and our environment. But, these communities that are popping up all over the world, and because I'd love to be able to give our listeners and our viewers some tools or some places where they can go to actually start investigating themselves, where they can maybe get involved with some of these communities or these ideas.
Sure. Yeah.
So we'll definitely, we don't have to sort of talk about any of them right now because there's heaps of them that are out there, and we'll definitely link some of those into the description of our content. But as you were talking there, it's making me think about this beautiful analogy that a good friend of mine, Mo, if you're watching this, Mo, or listening, inspired me with, which is, have you ever heard of the imaginal cell? I know I told you about this, the imaginal cell. All right, so it's something that scientists still don't fully understand. And it's when a caterpillar basically is going through metamorphosis. It creates this cocoon, and inside its cocoon, it essentially just turns to a mush, right? So, and inside that mush, these cells, these new cells, just appear out of nowhere. They don't understand where they come from. They're completely independent from the caterpillar's DNA. And, because they're like this foreign body within this mush, the caterpillar cells start to try and attack it. It's like this war going on. And those cells eventually, they start finding each other. And as they find each other, they create these little communities all throughout the cocoon, let's say our planet.
Yeah.
And as they join forces, they become stronger to the point where eventually they all join up. And that's what transforms the entire mush into a whole new...
That's what creates the butterfly.
That's what creates the butterfly, this beautiful transformation that then, once ready, comes out of its shell. Wow. And is probably one of the most beautiful, representations of what I feel can happen with the world.
It's a transformation that's needed. I think that, going back to the insanity and the necessity to resolve that mental health and crisis throughout, systems, people and society, it's a human problem. All the problems that we see, you could talk about the collapse of democracy and the collapse of ecology and the collapse of many different aspects of the economy and things that we all know about. But it's a human issue. It's a human educational, cultural, mental health issue that needs, at the root of everything that we face, it really is those things that need the most focus to regenerate the human spirit. And I believe if we regenerate the land, then the mother, will regenerate
us. 100%. All right, well, we've been talking for quite some time now, and I feel like I could talk to, especially with the three of you here, we could probably talk all day. But at some point I would love to actually do a deeper conversation on an individual level with each and every one of you. But for now, I think we might leave it at that. And, if anybody's got any last words or anything that's coming to them that they really want to kind of get out there, a message to our viewers or our listeners as to where they can maybe take those next steps towards helping us heal ourselves so we can heal our mother and vice versa.
I really liked what Tom said. I like what both of you said a lot. And I agree completely with everything that you said. It's a change that has to happen on an individual level. But it's a change that needs to inspire people to form into groups, because what we essentially have to do in any sort of change in society or the change of any state is to outcompete the existing state. We have to prove that there is a better way to do it. And by doing it in that better way, we will just naturally attract more people to participate in our way. And the way that we're doing it right now is so bad that it shouldn't be very hard to do. I've often thought, for many years now, I've thought that what we really need is some sort of a new, like a declaration, like the Declaration of Independence in the United States, or those first lines of the U.S. Constitution, that all men are created equal and that these truths are self-evident and we are granted certain inalienable rights. That was a very powerful declaration, and it united that nation, and it created probably the most prosperous and the most advanced nation on earth in its history. And before that, there was the Magna Carta, which again was an agreement among people that declared that there were certain inalienable rights and there were certain principles which were sacred almost. They were above all else, above all laws, and they could never be overwritten. I think we need a new one of those. We need some sort of a new unifying agreement that when people read it, they're like, this is true.
Like a manifesto.
A manifesto.
Well, maybe
it's new commandments.
There are.
Maybe it's
Ten
not even a
Commandments,
new
you know.
one. Perhaps it's an ancient one.
Yeah,
that
there
we've
is. I was
forgotten.
going to say the indigenous cultures, most of them
Indigenous.
have got these.
Right.
Yeah,
I would
and
say-
some of them are coming together and creating new ones for like the whole Americas and
That's right.
like the Pacific regions.
That's
and
what I'd like to see. I'd like to see
Yeah.
something that when you read it, it just impacts your heart in such a way, just like the Ten Commandments do. You're like, yeah, that all makes perfect sense. When you read the Ten Commandments today, you're still like, oh, those are pretty good rules. You know, those make sense. I shouldn't
But
be killing people,
everybody-
sleeping with my neighbor's wife. You know, that's
I do
probably a good
agree with
idea.
that. But the thing is that every bioregion's different, so they have different values and different needs. So it's almost like the
But that can be incorporated into an overarching statement. I mean,
sure.
you can say that we're forming individual cells within a greater body, but that body considers it its responsibility to leave the planet in a better condition than it found it, to produce as much or more than it consumes, to ensure the thriving of all individuals in a given geographical region before the excess of any individual. You know, these are things
that's
that
key things that would apply to any bioregion.
that should
that's
apply to any
really-
bioregion.
That's up to us to actually create. And the big thing that I just see is happening, and with most of the conversations I have, is people are waiting. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear about stepping outside the system and stepping into a new way of being, because we can't remember how to do that, although it's our innate nature to be living on the earth in that way. So the first thing people, again, it's coming back to self, is like, while you have fear of death, you're always going to be manipulatable. I don't even know if that's a word, but you're always going to be susceptible to any kind of agenda that is put out there to keep you in line.
Yeah.
So, you know, the self-work first is imperative. And once you break free and you no longer have fear, then you can start to live a free life. And I love what you're doing here, Andrew, with the work away. And I've traveled that way and I've hosted people in Australia. And I think for anyone that feels like traveling is a limitation because of a financial reason, or because I'm a slave to my job, or I have these things, it's all a facade. It's all a story that you're telling
Limiting
yourself.
belief.
You can travel for free if you're willing to give time and energy into your gifts and your passion and network. And there's amazing networks out there. Maybe you can list some of those. Help Away, WorkX, and
Yeah, for
Sure, we'll definitely put some resources into the comments.
great
into
way
the
to learn new
description.
skill sets and to connect with these communities that are really popping up. Like I had a Swizz on there the other day, and I was like, there was like in Colombia, there was so many eco villages and eco things, and it's the same. I was in Egypt like a week ago, and even in Egypt, there's all these like eco retreats and people doing yoga things, and like it's global. This movement is global. It's just about getting out of your kind of mindset,
Out of your comfort zone.
yeah, and just putting yourself out there.
Take the risk. I mean, I remember there's probably, and again, we want to start wrapping things up, but the point, so at the age of 24, I was making, you know, twice the average doctor in Australia. I was making stupid money, and I was living very much within that, you know, consumer mindset. And I had an incident where a good friend died that was the catalyst for me going on a mission to Latin America, which was just after that I met this beautiful man. And I was traveling with a lot of money in my bank account, and I spent that pretty quickly. I was banking on about another $8,000 that was owed to me from the company that I resigned from, who in the end basically just said, come back to Australia and sue us, enjoy your holiday. And I was at that point, I was like, oh, okay, now I've got the choice of going back to Australia, or I could use my last, I think I had about $1,600 at that point to go back to Mexico, where I had some opportunities there. And I spent that last money going back there. And then I think when I came back to join Tommy in Colombia, I walked into the office where he invited me to come and do some work with him. And I had like $20 in my pocket and no shoes. Can you remember that? Yeah. You know, but honestly, that was the point where I really felt the adventure started. And I really felt...
You were our best salesman that ever walked through the door, man.
With bare feet, yeah.
And that was really when my life started changing for the better. You know, I started breaking away from these limiting beliefs, and I started realizing that it's when you're out of your comfort zone, when you put yourself in these difficult situations, when your true colors shine and life starts to show what can be done, what you can make of yourself. So, yeah, get out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Most of life's great adventures begin when you take off your shoes.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, ground yourself.
Just to finish as well, I think a lot of the problems that we see on Earth are people are economically desperate. They don't have any money, and like people don't want to step out of this paradigm, like you're saying, because they don't have any money. Like you got to look at like why don't they have any money? Why are they scared to step out of the paradigm? Are they disconnected from the people around them? Don't they have the community that's going to support them in hard times? Are they disconnected from their family? Are they not learning new things that would protect them and make them resilient? So I think if people like...
They're watching the news too.
Well, exactly.
If you watch the news, I'm sitting in a war zone here. This is a no-go from Canada. Like,
Colombia.
I just had friends come from Canada, and I had to answer about 25 messages like, "Are you sure it's safe?" I was like, "I mean, I've been here 17 years. Yeah. Of course it's safe."
Yeah.
Well, there's issues, but
people are ruled by fear, and I think, you know, let's share some of these resources. Joe Brewer, a friend of mine, lives in Barichara, Colombia. He wrote a book called The Design Pathway to Regenerate the Earth. It's really an incredible read for anyone who wants to get into bioregionalism. And just look at Regenerate Cascadia, just Google it, or Cascadia bioregion, regenerating the Colorado River. If there's not a bioregion activated near you, start activating your bioregion to regenerate your bioregion. If you want to go and stay in a regen village, look up TDF in Portugal, the traditional dream factory, Liminal Village in Italy. There's new villages springing up all over. Both of those projects want to take hundreds of thousands of acres into regenerative projects and grow villages all over the world. Yeah. So we have a network of villages that you can spend a month here, a month there, learn, contribute, share, grow, connect. It's absolutely brilliant. So don't be scared of like making some changes and stepping outside of your comfort zone, because it's absolutely amazing.
And lighten your life, like, you know, let go of some of the things that are holding you down. The more possessions we have, the more time we spend looking after them all. So,
for sure.
You know, make a little commitment to like I've kind of just done the last couple of years is every 6 months I get rid of a third of my stuff.
Yeah.
It's great.
The minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah, I still have too much. Now I'm like going, I still have way too much, and I've got like a 10-kilo backpack.
I have a camper van. That's got everything I own in it, and I have a rucksack here. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Liberated.
No.
And I am free.
Beautiful.
You know.
Look at that smile.
It's not always.
Look at that beautiful smile. That's it. Live a more meaningful life. Live less. Don't let your things own you.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys, and beautiful girl.
Gracias.
Thank you so much for being here, for who you are, and thank you to you guys for making the effort to start investigating how we can create a world where we truly live more, we love more, and we waste less.
Excellent.
Hallelujah.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.